Hi, I'm Michael Welchinsky. Welcome to Spirit of the Hills Wildlife Sanctuary. Come along and I'll take you on a tour of this facility. It's been a lifelong dream as a child to give a safe place to animals. Having a turbulent childhood, I spent a lot of time alone. I was the only child and spending it with a bunch of creatures, usually domestic. But as I wandered into the forest, I got more accustomed to understanding wild animals, and they would befriend a child, and I was that child. As I grew, this fantasy notion came to me that to have a safe place for a bunch of animals that needed a home. We take in animals from local humane societies and from people who get into desperate situations. We're coming up to the birds. You may think, if you're looking at them, that they're big and beautiful, and these kind of birds are usually expensive, and why would they be at an animal sanctuary? So these guys, they're sold usually through pet shops here, that's how you get them. And they're really, they're fun when they're babies. Once they get older, their wildness comes in and they'll start picking one person in the family, kind of to be their mate. So they'll love that person, they'll cuddle up to them. Well, if you have a husband or a wife, they will hate that other person, and that'll be a challenge. That person will challenge them all the time. Well, if you look at their beaks, it's a formidable weapon. So they'll start chasing the person that they don't like, biting them. They'll chew furniture. They'll chew through their cages and like destroy the inside of a house. And then all of a sudden, people are like, I can't handle this. And then one of the biggest things that people complain about is they're very loud. Usually early in the morning or later in the evening, they'll scream at the top of their lungs. And so if you're living in a residential neighborhood with neighbors, people get annoyed. Like I said, we rescue domestic animals, and these are two of the dogs. That's Apollo waiting for his breakfast, carrying his food dish around, and this is Heloise. They came named here a different name, and we changed their names and just so that they forget about their past life. Apollo was aggressive toward men. For the first probably 9 months, he would bite any guy, any male keeper that came into his enclosure. And now he's just a normal dog. He doesn't bite men anymore. He's fun and friendly. And they're kind of neighbors to unusual critters. There's two Syrian brown bears, a subspecies of the grizzly, but not as big, not as vicious, troublesome. Brother and sister. Born here, the mother was pregnant when she came. They gave birth. Usually, in nature, the male would kill the little ones, so we took them away and we bottle fed them for, I don't know, a year. So they're very people-oriented. Not safe-oriented. It's a sad existence for a bear to be born into living into a cage the rest of its life, which is so not necessary. And the dogs keep them entertained, and they keep the dogs entertained. Now we're coming into the big cat area. This whole thing is governed by the USDA, so there has to be an 8-foot fence, and they come and check here to make sure everything is safe for animals and safe for people. So we put up extra perimeter fences. And then we got the True Catch Company to build us. This was like my little fanatical idea of having the leopards. This is our tour path here, which you're walking through. So in a couple of weeks, the leopards will be able to walk on top of you and watch you from up top, which if you look at them in nature, that's where they would be sitting high in a tree. But in a few days, they'll be able to jump up and go up top there. If you can see, there's a lion in there. That's Stinky. He's an African lion. His real name is Dakota. He was one of the first animals that came from Minnesota. He was a little cub that was raised by Bottle. And then Butter is the dog's name. He's an American foxhound. He's back there. He would suck milk 5 to 6 times a day, and the dog, after a while, started licking the milk off of his face. And to make a long story short, the dog and lion became best friends. The lion thinks that the dog is the mom. And then Butter is the dog's name. He's an American foxhound. He's back there. And they're separated temporarily, but they've been together for 6 years. And it's one of the most odd things about this sanctuary that people remember of children, is that there's a dog and a lion that live together. This is Raphael and Shula, one of those infamous white tigers. He originated from the Minnesota deal and ended up in Florida. He had 2 other siblings, both of which have passed away. White tigers aren't genetically all that well. They've been inbred for so long that their immune system is is weakened, and they don't seem so as smart as their orange counterparts. They raised them in Minnesota. They sold, there was 3 brothers, I guess, and they sold them to a guy who would take pictures with tigers and lions, or have, you know, families taking pictures at fairs and whatever family attractions. And then when the Minnesota animals were, when the government decided they were coming here, these animals, we had permission to go and get these ones as well. This enclosure is home to 3 mountain lions. If you've been in South Dakota for a while, you'll hear that we have a mountain lion. There's a mountain lion season, and we have a lot of wild ones. This is typically of what they would look like that you would see in the wild here. This guy has 3 legs, so he's a handicapped fellow. We think that he caught his underarm on a stick when they were playing, and then his sister licked and cleaned the area, you know, like where he was hurt, and then he got an infection. A common name is cat scratch fever. And so 5 days after his accident, the vet removed his leg. And that's the sister who just wants to come and roughhouse with him. They had the parents, I mean, basically as pets, and either on purpose or by accident, they had a litter of babies. And they had a hard time selling them, so they brought them here. They brought 2 of them here. These are lynx. They came with me from Canada, and they're kind of fun little creatures. They camouflage very well, if you know what camouflage means. If you look in here, most people, even our keepers, have a hard time finding them. So you can imagine they're in this little enclosure, and we will think that they escaped. So we look and look and look and look, and they're right there, right 6 inches from your nose. These guys were house pets, so little people would play with them when they were small, treated them just like a house cat, and they get older and they become aggressive. A lot of people, just like a house cat, a lot of people get them declawed so they can't scratch boys and girls and moms and dads. But now they just live like this, and they have a natural type home, almost identical to what they would live in the wild. This is Hercules. He's an African lion. He's more Barbary lion. You can see his mane is way different than Stinky or the other lion Simba that's here. I have a lot in common with Hercules, just so I tell you. First of all, if you look at his messy hair, under this hat, I have very messy hair. That's why the hat is on. And the other thing is, Herc was made in Canada. I brought him with me from Canada. He, again, was a pet, and then he got too big, and Mom and Dad didn't want him anymore because he was raised with 2 little girls, and they would sleep with him on their bunk bed. But a bad thing happened is that he would protect them like he would in nature as prey. He would protect the mom from the girls. So if Mom was bathing them, he wouldn't let her into the bathroom to dry them or to get them dressed. And that was when they decided that he had to go. If you do a lot of mountain biking or hiking in the hills, a lot of the times that's what you're missing. There's a mountain lion sitting in a tree, in a pine. And if you don't have a dog with you, most people would miss it completely. But there's 3 of them in here. They're siblings, and they enjoy most of their days lounging around or like that, watching. Hi, buddy. This is Bailey, Bouduchet, and Leonardo. 2 tigers, 1 lion. Not typical for a natural situation, but this is a man-made put together of animals. It's kind of sad that 3 young animals were born into this. They were all 3 of them brought here as like 8-month-old cubs. And so we kept them together, and that's how they've been living for the last 5 years. All of these guys have come from an owner, a pet owner, where they wanted a pet, an exotic pet. And so every one of these have been raised by somebody else. They didn't come here as little ones. And out of that whole group of all the animals here, there's one lady. She lives in Minnesota. She continues to look after her animals and make sure that they're provided for. She's donated a tractor and a vehicle and a monthly fund to keep them. And I mean, not just to keep her animal, to help out the whole animals of the sanctuary. So it's appreciated, and it's astounding to many people that out of all the people who've brought animals here, there's one person. It's amazing that African leopards exist in South Dakota. That every time I look at them, it puzzles me. They came, again, from people in Minnesota. This is Jade, that's Minoka. She's black, He's spotted. A lot of people think they're a different species, but if you see them in the sunlight, they're exactly the same. The sun will bring out her spots, which are identical to his. Not that they're identically placed, because they're not, because they're all unique. But this dude was used for commercials on airplanes and jewelry commercials, and of course they grow up and become not so safe, and that's how they end up at places like this. We're gonna go and see buffalo right away. I have two favorite friends, Buster and Clifford. I want you to see Clifford because he's a little one. I call him Baby Clifford. And he was bottle fed, so he still wants to suck your fingers as if he was being bottle fed still. This is Buster. He's like 5.5 years old. He's a bull. This is unusual that you get this close to a buffalo. If you go to Custer State Park, it's probably not advisable. But since this guy was raised by people, he's probably just as dangerous. But he's in a good mood today.
Buster.
I don't know, he's probably 1,200 pounds. He's full grown, so. And I think he's a little smaller than normal bulls because he was raised by people. So when they've been captively raised, yeah, they stay a little smaller. But his family who brought him here, they come here. Like if I call them though, because they came last week and they helped fix the fence. But they got in a situation where they had to find them a home, so. This is Kiwani and Benny. They're Syrian brown bears. They were the parents of the ones you were looking at earlier. They as well came from the Minnesota situation. Used for entertainment purposes of people. This one will know how to clap. If you have a piece of food, she'll stand up and clap, which we don't promote here because it's not a fun thing for kids to see, because then they expect animals to perform, and that's not their general function. So the male is like hanging out way back there in the shade, having a little rest after breakfast. They have their claws, which is a very good thing, but if you look at the trees here, it wasn't such a good thing. If you look just over to your right, all the oak trees have their branches and their leaves. The majority of those bears have been declawed. They came that way. And then if you look here with the claws, you'll see how destructive in 4.5 years how they have been to these trees. They're amazingly powerful. They can excavate a basement overnight. We've had them dig 12-foot holes, 20 feet wide, 12 feet deep, just overnight. And so here they eat fish, they eat meat, they get fruit and vegetables from the store. 20 to 30 pounds, and these guys are fed every day. To clean their teeth, we give them dry, crunchy dog food. Our veterinarian monitors their diet. And then Saturday and Sunday, they just get a snack, but they're watered every day and showered down every day. You can tell she's very clean and very teddy bear looking like. Folks, this concludes your visit here to the sanctuary. I appreciate your time and the respect you've shown for myself and for the animals. And I hope through this day you've kind of saw what people can do to make life better for unwanted critters. And I think if there's one thing that I want to leave you with today is that maybe make it your responsibility to let this place disappear, so that there's not a need for unwanted animals, unwanted children in the world. Being compassionate and respectful to that situation, that cause is a wonderful thing. And like I've kind of repeated throughout the tour, the way people treat animals is the direct way that they treat people. And so have a good day. Thank you for your support, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you again sometime. Thank you.